Good evening. Coming to you live from the ZLX Stadium, commonly known as New Douglas Park, Hamilton. You are tuned in to the Friday night football pitch with myself, Cameron MacDonald. Also joined, as always, by my regular co-host, Dennis Newell. And we're also joined tonight again by Tom House. By Steve and Tom House, as I say, who should have been with us last week, but obviously things transpired that he wasn't here. Tom House, a big Manchester United fan. We've got Steve again, big Spurs fan. Glutton for punishment. He doesn't only watch Spurs 2 or 3 times a week. He's got to come on here twice in the 1 week as well. So, good evening, gents. How are you?
Good evening.
Well, thank you.
Hi, Tom. Hi,
good,
Steve.
Good.
Oh, we lost you, Steve.
No, I had the wrong link. I think I was waiting patiently for last week's one to begin again. So yeah.
I think you could have spoke to Tom on that one as well. He was stuck with last week's link as well. So there we go.
As well, and week delay to my debut, but here at last. Yeah.
That's it exactly.
I must point out that the 3 of us, Tom, Steve, myself, all work with the same company. And we normally have a catch-up, and hopefully none of the directors are listening, because the last 10 minutes of each of our catch-ups, normally we discuss football. So it was ideal to get Steve and Tom on, because they're keen supporters. Tom's one of the bosses anyway, so we can say what we like time-wise. But the thing is, we normally have a bit of banter regarding...
We schedule an hour and a half meeting, and we do an hour and 20 of football and 10 minutes of work.
Well, I wish it was, Tom, but you know it isn't.
That's that, exactly. It's 5 minutes of work, and I'm doing 55 minutes football.
We have that bit
so,
of banter.
Anyway, obviously, time's kind of tight tonight, guys. I'll see. I've got a game to go and watch in 40 minutes or so. Clyde taking on Edinburgh City here, as I say, at the ZLX Stadium in Hamilton. Tom, we were going to get you on last week, but probably works out better this week in terms, obviously, European football again. Next week, you take on Rangers, a mighty Manchester United taking on Rangers in the Europa League, the default competition for some, but obviously not for yourself. But Manchester United season been very up and down. You obviously lost a manager already this season. I'm on record as saying to Dennis, and I don't know whether he agrees with me or not, I think your new manager will turn things around. I think given time, he's got a great record of Sporting Lisbon. You're talking about a guy there who earlier in the season beat Manchester City 5-1. He's done the double. Obviously, you managed to beat Manchester City as well. How do you think he'll do?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the key to it is going to be time. I think he's obviously got a clear system he wants to play. He's played it at Sporting Lisbon. He wants to bring that over to the new squad of players. And I think at the minute it's clear that squad of players doesn't suit that style. There's not a balance to the team at the moment. We're missing something on the left-hand side. We have no left-sided players that are natural there at all. So it's a clear imbalance. So I think he needs time. Unfortunately, he's not going to get a lot of money at the moment by the looks of things from the off-field management of the club has been poor in the last few years, or very poor.
Yeah.
So he's going to be working on a bit of a relative shoestring. It's obviously not a shoestring in world football terms, but a relative shoestring in Premier League and Manchester United recent history terms. But I think the squad's not been good enough. It's been poorly managed. The on-field squad has been badly managed. They haven't been driven hard enough. You can see the work ethic hasn't been there. And I think in recent weeks, particularly the 2 games against Liverpool and Arsenal recently, I think the most pleasing thing outside of the result was actually the effort shown by the players, especially after going down to 10 men against Arsenal. I thought particularly players like Harry Maguire was superb in that game, when he's had a real stick over the years from myself and from Dennis. Over the years, we've given him plenty of stick, and I still don't think he's a long-term solution. But you've got to give the guy a lot of credit for the effort he's put in to come back and perform at those levels. And I think that's probably the most pleasing thing I've seen from the football side of it since he's come in. But I hope we do give him time, because I do like the guy. I think he comes across really well. He comes across as a real man manager, and he's not going to take any nonsense from the players, and he's going to demand 100% all the time. And I think we haven't had that for probably since Mourinho was there.
Will he get the time?
Yeah.
Will he get the time? Big
Hard to
question.
say in football. Yeah.
supporters are the worst in the world. You know, you look at it, and we've got it up here. You had a guy in the Aberdeen manager who was absolutely running away with the exception of Celtic, and they can't buy a win. It's 12 games, 13 games without a victory. And you look at Manchester United, and I did watch them against Southampton, and you missed it, fortunately, for 80 minutes. I don't know if you watched it, Steve, or you, Cammy, but for 80 minutes,
it's the highlights, Dennis.
you were probably the worst Manchester United display that I can ever recall. They were that bad. And when you look at the result and you see the highlights, you go, oh, good game, great result. A million miles away from it. And I'll tell you what, Southampton, believe it or not, won't end up bottom of the league if they play like that. I thought they were outstanding for the best part of that 80 minutes and deserve something more out of the game. But the question I go back to is, at the bottom of the league, they're a million miles away from them. If they're relying on the last 10 minutes of games, Tom, the manager will start getting stick, I would think. And as much as you like him, and a lot of supporters do like him, and they think he's the future will be short for him if he doesn't get these results. I mean, even against Arsenal, you look at it and you go down to penalties and you go, Arsenal's not a great team, because, and I'll tell you why. I'm not going to have a long spiel about this, but Tottenham, especially, Steve, in your neck of the woods, a team that gets beat with Arsenal, with Havertz, Sterling and Trossard up front, don't deserve to win any matches, because they're probably the three worst forwards you could get in the Premier League. Trossard was at Brighton when my wee mate was there, and I said to him and Moppy will get you the sack if you don't go and get a forward. And Brighton were always in the position where, what a team they are, but they can't score goals. He was a forward. So he's went to Arsenal, and he had chances the other night there, and I think to myself, no, there's people out there that you've got to look at and say, you should be beating these teams. And Man United, without being too cruel to them at this moment in time, I don't think it'll last a great deal long. How long would you think that he'll get in this, Tom, if it continues in the same vein?
Like as long as it didn't go absolutely chaotically bad and we were in the relegation scrap, I think he'll get a completely free ride this season. You know, he's got a free hit in the cups. Obviously, we've knocked Arsenal out. We've got a semi-favourable draw against Leicester in the next round of the FA Cup. You know, if we can get through to the next round of the Europa League, then I think he's got a free hit in them, and I think the league is a write-off anyway. So as long as we get to where we can, I think he's got a completely free hit this year. The pressure will start coming come December December this year into next season, and we've played a few games under our belt for the start of next season. If we're not in that sort of top six, I think that's when the pressure will start coming then. Definitely.
I think the thing you've got with him, but is he's obviously been appointed by Director of Football and Board. You know, the previous manager obviously was in there, hadn't been appointed, so he wasn't their man. It was very easy eventually to get rid of him once they managed to find somebody. And I mean, obviously they had about 6 or 7 goes in the summer to try and find a replacement for him. They've took their time over this guy, brought him in, and I think he's got a good pedigree. I genuinely think Dennis, he'll certainly get the time for the board and for the Director of Football, whether he gets the time or not for the fans. But I think if the board stays strong, I think he will turn them around and do a job for them.
Yeah, I think he will too, and I think he's well, like you say, he's got a track record already of taking a team who were underperforming in Sporting Lisbon. They hadn't won the league for a long time, and he took them and took a while to turn it around, but stuck with his system and generated a league-winning team out of it. That's a bigger task in the Premier League in England with the strength and depth of the league. But I think you've got to give him at least 2 or 3 years. You've got to give him time. I mean, you look at.
I think he's a quality manager. I think he looks a quality manager. What he's achieved in the past.
Yep.
I don't think he's a taskmaster. I think someone like what Man United need to have is someone like Ferguson to shout at them, because the problem with Man United isn't the talent in the squad. The problem is the effort being made by the talent in the squad. Yep. That's the problem at Man United. You know, they've got a fantastic squad of players. I mean, most people are getting Tottenham's injured. Yeah, I think they have. Yeah, I think they've got a fantastic squad of players, but they just look poor all the time. And the reason.
How many players in that squad, Steve, would you say would fit into a Liverpool side or a Manchester City side?
Oh yeah,
You see, they've got a good squad of players. I disagree entirely. I think
3 or 4.
Fernandez is a decent player, but he flatters to deceive most of the time. The
Fernandez
goalkeeper's
is their
dire.
biggest problem. Fernandez is Man United's biggest problem. He kept against it was Liverpool. They drew 2-2, wasn't it, a couple of games ago?
Yeah.
And the red stars. Fernandez looked absolutely world class. And every game before that, I've watched him. He's just sulked like a child and looked really poor. And it's up to the manager to get the players up to the job. I think they've got a talented squad of players. They just look poor. But then I don't think the players have bought into him. I don't think the players have bought into that manager, or they'd be making a lot more effort in the games that not against Man United, not against Liverpool, because they're the games that the players get themselves up for.
Yep.
The manager doesn't have to do that.
We see that regular with managers coming in, and I said that at the beginning when he was appointed because of his age, and I don't know whether it's been disrespectful to him because he's that young, that they only put into it what they want to put into it. And, and that to me could be the hindrance I see that happened at Chelsea with Potter, that basically if players are not buying into what comes in that front door, they're not going to change. You look at it and you say to yourself, Rashford is keen to get away. There's no question of doubt about it. He wants away. Yeah,
I think they're keen to get him out the door.
Yeah, but surely it should work the other way with a new manager coming in. He should be up for it, the boy, and you should be the manager that tries and, what would you say, matures him into a player of the qualities he's got. Now, if you come into that club and your first task is to try and get rid of one of the best centre forwards in the world, you've not done your job to me.
Who?
Rashford is outstanding on his match.
You are joking. You have got to be kidding.
So.
That's a guy who couldn't score a goal. He couldn't find the back of the net.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what.
He's another one that doesn't want to turn it on.
But what I'm saying is the talent he's got, a bit like some of the squad that's there now, you can debate it with them all. Martin Rashford, when he was hot, was outstanding. There's no question of doubt about it. But the problem is he's went off the boil and he has no hunger or desire for Manchester United.
No, it's summed up by the fact that the Man United players that look the best at the moment in the games that are not against the big clubs are the 18-year-olds, because they're the ones who want to impress and they're making all the effort. Whereas the players, Fernandez really annoyed me because against Liverpool, he was world class against Liverpool. He was absolutely brilliant in that game. And they interviewed him after the game. He said, he said, it's one-off game. We was up for this game. We've got to make sure we do it against the other clubs. And I'm thinking, but you're the main culprit for not doing that. You're the one that sulks and doesn't make an effort in these other games. And he showed how good he is in that game.
But what do you do?
Tom, you're talking about
what do you do when you
Tom, you're talking about the fights. Sorry, Dennis, on you go.
What does a manager do when he comes into the club like that? I mean, I would find that difficult into a dressing room and be in a position of, say, Manchester United, when you've got so many people not really trying and playing to their potential. What do you do there? Because these guys are an absolute fortune, and they don't worry because they know if you bin them, they'll get another club and they'll get probably more money. So you can't. There's an element more. My belief is you have to be cruel to be kind, but managers don't seem to get away with that anymore. And the bottom line is, has this guy got it? In relation to, and I'm not even questioning his ability, I know he's got it, but the thing is, can he do it at Manchester United? And that's where I think, back to it, will he be given enough time to get rid of the guys that are not willing to work for him and bring players in? Because there's a lot of players.
That's half his squad. That's half his first team squad. That are willing to work.
There's a lot.
I think that's the problem. Is I don't think the club's got the money to back him to bring the players in to replace them, to get rid of half of them. I don't think he can do that. So get rid of Rashford, take what you can get from him. Get rid of Fernandez, somebody will take it. You know what I mean? There's clubs in Saudi, you know what I mean, that side of the world, so I'm quite sure he'll come in and give you money for some of these players. Ship them out and then look at investing in your squad. Look at players who want to be at Manchester United. Look at guys who want to stick there. And I know that's simple, you know, and they're simple to say. It's a damn sight hard to do it. But too many times clubs turn around and say the manager's the problem, you know, and ship out a manager when the problem is clearly what's on the park, which isn't interested in performing. And for me, that's Fernandez. For me, that's Rashford. You know, you get 2 or 3 others there. You get centre backs who can't stay on the park because they can't stay
fit. You know, so that's a lot of the problem at Manchester United. You got a goalkeeper who is not a patch on keepers that have been there in the past. You know, it reminds me of the French boy for 20 years ago that Ferguson eventually shipped out, you know, in terms of his ability. I forgot his name. But Manchester United need a major overhaul, and it's not necessarily in the management. It has to be down to the playing staff.
How long does that take, Cameron? This is back to the time thing again. I keep repeating it, but it's down to time. Supporters don't give clubs time. We've seen it throughout everywhere. They don't give them time.
No, his first act when he came in was saying Rashford's got to go.
But
you know, so
22 they're in, and the guy needs to get a wee break and get a few results under his belt, and then he can adapt it and get it the way he wants it to play it. But I mean, there's just some of them that are really questionable and why they were even signed. They really were.
Wow, I think the biggest one of those is Anthony. It's a
that's
doesn't even look like a football player after that.
Did you see the sitter he missed last night?
No, I've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Unbelievable. I mean, why he went down there, I could have scored that just by standing up straight.
Unbelievable.
So, yeah, I think they'll offload him. What did he cost, Tom? Because we've seen the third most expensive man you need to pay.
Just short of 90 million.
81 million, I think he was. Yeah.
My word.
You could have got 2 Timo Werners for that.
Well, yeah,
that's the same result. Same result. Yeah. But I think Steve touched on it before. I think the ray of hope United fans have is I think we do have some good young players. You know, I think the danger is that because of the financial stuff, we end up selling them because they're the likes of Kobe Mainoo. There's been talk of him going to Chelsea because it's 100% profit for the club because he's an academy player, and that's a big concern. But I think the likes of Mainoo, the likes of Amad Diallo, you know, Garnacho needs to develop his play, but I think he could play in one of those number 10 spots behind the forward. I think
Garnacho last night looked to me as if he's a wide player and a wide player only. He played inside, and I thought he was lost as a centre forward almost. And I thought, I like you as an outside player, son, but you play in a position that doesn't suit you. So
that's what he needs to develop his game to play in that role.
The jury's out for me on him at this moment in time.
There's a few rumours in more than a few papers today and a few online sites that Garnacho's coming to Tottenham in January.
Good player.
Ooh,
absolutely.
Good player. He'd be a good player in your team.
Yeah.
He would be. And he's a big game player. He always turns up in the big games. You'll have seen it in the cup final, and you know he likes. I know we said it before about having to be up for all of them, but you also want those players that will stand up on the biggest stage as well. And I think in the big games we've had, he has always performed. He's still a young lad. He's only 20-year-old.
I like the centre forward. I like the Tottenham team. You've only got to be not injured to get in the Tottenham team at the moment, so he'll be fine.
I like Højlund. I think he's again a lot of money, but you pay. Yeah, I like him. I think look, he needs to find his goal scoring boots, but he's clearly somebody who does put the effort in, and I think you've seen he's getting a run of games because I think the manager trusts him that he's going to put a shift in and close down, and he's a handful. You saw that against Arsenal. You know, Saliba's probably been one of the best centre backs in the world for the last 18 months, and he gave him a real rough game, I thought, on Sunday. And
I think he's reached his peak.
I think he'll score goals if we sort the team out around him and create chances. I think he'll score goals.
He's definitely got a raw talent, Højlund, doesn't he? He's a bit like he reminds me a bit of Darwin Núñez at Liverpool. I mean, you can see the bloke's talented, but he's just as likely to fall over his own feet at any moment. There's definitely a raw talent there. You're gonna have to put up with him doing the odd silly thing in the meantime, I think. But there's definitely talent there to see with Højlund.
In the interest of practicing what I preach, I put some effort in for my debut. So I did some research, and I looked back at Robert Lewandowski's career. Obviously, been probably one of the top centre forwards in Europe for the last 15 years, 10 years certainly.
Just behind Harry Kane.
His first season at Dortmund was the same age as Højlund is now. He scored 9 in 43, and Højlund got 16 in 43 last season, a year younger. And you think we look back at people like that, and you think he's always scored 40 goals a year. But 20-year-olds a young age for a centre forward. I think a lot of them take a bit of time to find their feet before they start scoring goals. So. And I think when you look around the Premier League as well, how many goal scorers is there? You know,
it's not great when you mentioned. I mentioned 3 already, and Steve threw one in the ring. Werner, you know, there's 4 guys that are. You're just saying to yourself, what are they contributing?
But even
Timo Werner's the 61st top scorer.
Yeah.
60 what? He's
the 61st top scorer in England.
Yeah.
Werner.
So Tom, moving away from obviously the trials and tribulations, how do you see Thursday night going? You know, obviously when you take on Rangers.
I think it'd be an interesting game. I think it's what I like about it's a proper European British Cup tie, isn't it? It's 2 big teams. It's going to be good support, good travelling support from the Rangers fans going down to Old Trafford, which will be good to see and create a good atmosphere. And I think it'll be a good game because the Rangers have obviously got a cup game this weekend, probably a chance to rest a few players, although they've got a lot of injuries. So they can probably come with the team fighting fit. And I think Rangers will probably view Thursday night, if they can get a point out of that, with the home game to come against Saint-Gilloise, as a real good opportunity to finish in the top 8. So I think it'll be tough for United to get the 3 points. And I think we've got a difficult away game in Romania for our last game. So I think we probably need the 3 points. So I can see goals actually. I think I can see a decent game, a 3-2 or a 2-2 or something like that. I can see quite an open game where both teams are trying to get what they need out of it. I think it's a good opportunity for both of them to get through. I think it's interesting with the new format. Obviously, this is the first time we've still been in the group stage post Christmas, so different sort of feel about it. And I think they'll both be looking to avoid that extra round of games by finishing the top 8. So there's a lot on the line. So I think it'll be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually I'd like to try and get a ticket, but I'm travelling again next week. So unfortunately, I land back in Manchester just as the game finishes. So not ideal.
No, sure.
Well, it's interesting looking at the league because you've got Manchester United on 12 points, Rangers on 11, and Steve Tottenham in 11 as well.
Yeah, the 3 point. They're all in consecutive positions.
There's only a point between them with Man United and 1. So somebody is going to drop out of the playoffs. They've put it out. But yeah. I've got a feeling, well, looking at Manchester United, Rangers are probably getting them at the right time, because looking at 80 minutes yesterday wasn't great. And Steve, the Rangers got a hold of Tottenham at the wrong time, and they get something. So yeah, they did. And to be honest, Rangers had a game during the week against Aberdeen. I thought they were outstanding. Aberdeen run at the races. I know anywhere a shadow of the team they were at the start of the season. But Rangers tore them apart. And if Rangers go with that attitude, because I'll tell you what I'm seeing in it, Cammy, I don't know if you watched it, the confidence that some of these players have got in the Rangers team is unbelievable just now. It's not coming from the manager. It's coming from their own belief that they are maybe doing okay and they're punching above their weight. Now, you can only keep that going for so long, but the time is right for them to be playing Manchester United. I mean, they've got a cup tie coming up, which shouldn't be even an issue. But the thing is, against Manchester United, I'll tell you, if it had been this time last week, I might have changed my mind and thought Manchester United will run over the top of them. Now I'm beginning to think, get with that the same desire as you did against Aberdeen, and you'll give Manchester United a run for their money, especially on last night's performance.
The thing about it, Dennis, and I'm sure Tom and Steve will agree, is you're looking at 2 sides there who seem to be able to lift their game for Europe. You know, and to be fair to Rangers as well, they actually seem to lift their game for the more difficult games in the Premier League. Against the Dundees, the St Johnstones, the Motherwells, they tend to struggle. And for the first game against Celtic in the league, Rangers have tended to lift their game when they're playing the big opposition. They've certainly done so in Europe. And it looks as though, obviously, they seem to be doing the same in the Scottish League and the Cup. You know, lifted their game for the game at the Cup final. Obviously, the league game as well, you know, and Manchester United seem to be the same, Tom, in terms of, obviously, they've lifted their game for Liverpool, they've lifted their game for the cup tie against Arsenal. Southampton, as Dennis says, they were a shadow of the side that played these 2 games, through in the Manchester City game as well. You know, they were a shadow of the side. So it should be an absolute cracking cup tie on Thursday.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it'll be played like a proper cup tie because I think, as Dennis alluded to, the positions in the table mean it's all to play for. So I think it will be played like a proper cup tie. I think it'll be a good game.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. It's interesting with Rangers. Sorry, Dennis. It's interesting with Rangers. I'm borrowing some space from my stepdad's house, and he's a big Rangers fan. Season ticket for years before he moved down to Cumbria, and I've seen his mood perk up in the last few weeks. So I know they're playing better because that's generally what dictates his demeanour. So, so I know they must be playing a lot better. I can't say I keep up with it myself too much detail, but I said to him, you must be playing better. Right? He's like, yeah, we're putting a bit of effort in here. So he's a good report from him.
Just on the transfer market then, Steve, what do you think Tottenham's going to do? Because obviously I watched the cup tie on Saturday and it was a bit of the huffed and puffed through that game. And I mentioned to Cammy earlier on, I said, look, in Scotland we go all over the world to try and bring players in of all creeds and colours and nations and everything else. Nothing wrong with it if they're going to do your club a job. But you don't need to get any more than about 350 miles down the road in England with guys that are working as brickies and plumbers and driving vans and all the rest of it that could be earning a decent living in Scotland playing in the Premier League or the Championship. And I'm talking about guys I watched with Tamworth. There was at least 4 of them could have come up here and played in the Championship or in the bottom half of their Premier League without having to bring somebody in. An agent's flogged you for 3,000 mile away.
I thought we'd get onto the Tamworth game. I was hoping we wouldn't, but I thought we'd get onto the Tamworth game eventually.
Yeah, it had to be said.
I've got to be honest, I watched it. I mean, okay, Spurs weren't great. That's the understatement of the year, really. And Tamworth did up their game tremendously. For a lot of the game, you couldn't tell too much between the teams, to be honest. But it was a really difficult. I don't make excuses because they're Premier League players at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The pitch didn't roll correctly.
No,
every time someone passed the ball seemed to slow down before it got to the player.
Yeah, that's what old AstroTurf, I call it AstroTurf, artificial surfaces that I recall used to be like.
It's not excuses. It still should have been men against boys, and it really wasn't. But at no stage did I think we was going to lose that game until that last couple of minutes when there was a mad scramble in the area and they could have scored. That was the only time I thought we might lose that game. Although I didn't think we was ever going to lose that game before that. But but that last scramble in the last couple of minutes, we could have lost.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good game for a neutral looking in. I really thought it was a great cup tie to watch.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of players weren't up for it at all. I mean, I said last week, Timo Werner should never start for Tottenham. He has a bit of an impact coming on as a sub because he's quite quick and defenders are knackered. But he can't start a game. I wouldn't start him against any team, let alone a non-league team. And Brennan Johnson definitely wasn't up for it. He never tried in the whole game. And the only players that really tried were the youngsters, and they should have played more of them. But and the extra time they brought on Kulusevski and Son and Solanke, and to be honest, Tamworth were knackered, and we can bring sort of decent players off the bench, and they was just knackered. So we also winning extra time. It's a shame it wasn't replay because they deserved to replay at Tottenham, really.
I think small teams are a bit shortchanged when it comes to that because I think Tamworth deserved a replay.
They did. The only argument you can put against that is in the last round that they beat Burton Albion on penalties, didn't they? They might not even have been playing Tottenham if they'd been replayed.
But I think I heard that maybe they get 450k for that.
Yeah, they said they've got about the same amount if they come back to Tottenham. So
yeah,
it's not money for them. Not making excuses. The pitch was rubbish. We were rubbish, and you shouldn't make any difference. We should have won easily, but we didn't. And
well, you got a tough one the next round.
We got through, moved on. We got an easy game the next game. We always beat Villa. I call Villa the 20-minute side. I only ever play for 20 minutes a game, but they always seem to get a result. I'll never quite work it out. For 70 minutes of every game, Villa are rubbish. And then they perk up for 20 minutes of every. I did it last week against Southampton, West Ham again. Yeah. Remember? Exactly the same thing again. Rubbish for 70 minutes. Let's play for 20 minutes. Oh, we won the game. They do it every game, Villa. They're the 20-minute team.
Yeah.
What they achieve in that 20 minutes is amazing.
they've got one of the best keepers in the Premier League as well. I think that keeper they have at Villa's quality. Although he is susceptible to an odd mistake, but I think he's an exceptional goalkeeper.
Well, he's been awarded the last 2 years the best goalkeeper in the world, I think.
Yeah, he has. Yeah.
So
he reminds me. He's quite an old-fashioned keeper, in my opinion. He reminds me of a keeper of 25 years ago. In his style, he's not kind of a modern style keeper. He's big, thick-set sort of guy, imposing. Yeah, he's proper keeper. Yeah, he's good player.
When you touch on goalkeepers, the goalkeepers just now, for some unknown reason, think that they're actual footballers because
it's unbelievable.
I've seen players closing down the goalkeeper. Last night was a prime example, and I've seen that maybe twice last weekend. And to be honest, I can't get my head around why they just don't put their foot through it because it's ridiculous. They've done none of it, and I think managers encourage them. And I think Brendan Rodgers even wants his goalkeepers to be playing the ball out for the back. No, get the ball up the park. You're never going to score. And you're on third of the park. Get it up the other end. I'm always a believer of that. I don't care how great it looks.
It worries me watching Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham play their best football in their own penalty area. I mean, it is unbelievable what they try and do in their own penalty area. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've got Dominic Solanke. They can just clear it long to Solanke. He's one of the strongest players. He can hold the ball up as well as anyone. Why not? Why not do that with that one, Steve?
It's
because Solanke's got to feed after Timo Werner. That's why.
Yeah. Facing the wrong way.
I don't mind the ethos of trying to build from the back. I think it's about having the capacity to do something that isn't. It's not 100% set in stone. So when you are under pressure, or if the opposition presses, meaning that you can't play out from the back, go over the top of it. Like have the brains to come up with a plan B or have a plan B already set. Some people just seem so set. I mean, obviously Guardiola's been hugely successful, but I think even some of the games where he's not won big games, at Bayern when they didn't win the Champions League and stuff, and you watch a game, think just do something different for 15 minutes, and he's just so set in the way that it's got to be played in this way and no other way, and that's the way we're going to win. And if we don't win, we don't win.
Who actually cast this in stone that you've got to build up for the back? To me, it's now beginning to look old-fashioned because of the lack of being versatile enough to say, I'll tell you what, we're under a bit of pressure here. Stop playing about at the back, get it up into their last third and make them work and get all the scraps of the second ball that they win and work from there. Then you're not going to lose a goal if it's near their third. You won't. So I can't get my head around it when there's so many people can't pass the ball nowadays as accurately. Certainly in Scotland, it's a big flaw. They play about way at the back. It's embarrassing. You see it in England, the passing's far, far better. It's like watching international rugby and club rugby. The way they handle the ball in international rugby, I know I'm diversifying slightly. When I've been to a rugby match, it's awesome. But you go and you look down the level and you see the ball getting dropped and everything else. And it's the same in football. The passing game just isn't there, and it's not ready-made, especially in Scotland, for building up from the back as often as they do. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but with the bigger teams, yes, you start to drift down this messing about. It's as if, well, that's the way the big boys play it. We'll do the same. It doesn't work that way. The further down the scale you go, put your boot through it and get it forwards working.
I don't think Postecoglou is going to do any different, Dennis. Unfortunately, we're going to play the same way regardless.
Yeah,
what happens? And we've got a big game at the weekend. If we lose to Everton at the weekend, we're going to be dragged into the relegation fight.
Well, we've got United. You lot are below us now, Steve.
I know. How bad a season can you be having to be below United?
Oh,
it's terrible.
Well, I know you used to at the start of every season have a ding dong, and you don't have a bet on it. I know that, but a ding dong, and I'm sitting there listening to 2 years about Man United will end up on top of Tottenham, and Tom and Steve's like, no, we won't. All right, we will, we won't. And it goes back and forward like all the time, Cammy, for about 3 months. And then they settle down. Both of them are actually struggling.
Both of us are going to be below Bournemouth.
This year I was going to say they're trying to see who's going to finish above Brighton or Bournemouth or Crystal Palace pretty soon as well,
in my opinion, he's a real manager, that Iraola at Bournemouth. I think he's one to watch for the future, potentially to replace Guardiola at City. I think he's a genuinely top-class manager and has got a lot of future. Yeah, good.
That's 3 or 4 they've found there.
Yeah.
You know, they seem to find a good manager all the time at Bournemouth, at Brighton. Sorry, you know, so they're finding a decent club, they're decent gaffers.
Yeah, they do. Well-run clubs, and you see these Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth, Brighton, and Brentford are 3 great examples of clubs that have come up to the Premier League from the lower echelons of the football league, and they've really solidified their position as Premier League clubs now. And you know, they've played a lot of seasons between the 3 of them now in the league, and they're all on finishing top half this year. And it's because of the so well managed off the field that, like you say, they've went and found the right managers, they've found the right head scouts, or whatever they want to call it these days. They don't call it scout; they've probably given it a fancier name. But you know, they go and find little gems of players, and they have a proper balance to the team, and they play good football. They play good football. Bournemouth are a great team to watch.
Well, I don't know what Bournemouth spent, but if you look at Chelsea in comparison, £1 billion, and they're only 3 points ahead of Bournemouth. What does that tell you? That tells you the guys that are sitting in their ivory towers are shambolic, and they know how to run their own business, but they haven't got a Scooby on how to run a football club, because you don't spend kind of money and not have the success they would expect when you've got smaller clubs like the Brightons. Brighton are making money, and you've got Chelsea, and I'm only using them because I know they have spent a fortune as an example. There's other clubs there as well. So I think that they're mismanaged from the top, and I don't think it's even necessarily what would you say? There's an example tonight, and I'll just stop on that one. 200 million for Haaland, right? Pet come on at tea time at the news, and he was getting interviewed, and he says, nine and a half years contract. He says, I actually spoke to the director of football, and I said, could you just repeat that? He hadn't even been involved in it. That was him being told that, and I'm thinking again, I'm miles away from reality then. There you've got a manager where the club has set up a deal for 9.5 years, and he's actually on the phone asking them to repeat it because he can't believe it. Now, whether it's because it's good, bad, or indifferent, I'm sure it was good. But what part has he played in that? You debated how much money they were getting for their football boots. I mean, it's out of control now.
I don't think Guardiola played any part in signing Haaland. I think the club signed him as an investment, and because he's not a Guardiola style player, Guardiola's adapted his style slightly to work with Haaland because of how good he is. But Guardiola said all through his managerial career he'd play with 10 midfielders if he could, wouldn't he?
They only signed Guardiola when they went Harry Kane, didn't they? They wanted Harry Kane first of all.
Yeah.
And that Spurs wouldn't let City sign Harry Kane, so then they went for Haaland. But I don't know. I mean, it seems I don't think sort of managers have a say in a lot of transfers. They probably have an inkling sometimes, but I mean, a good example, we're going back to Tottenham, is Jed Spence. I mean, Jed Spence came to Tottenham when Conte was there, and Conte didn't want him. And he never got a sniff for 2 years. They sent him on loan. No, they didn't want to play him. No one didn't do anything with him. All of a sudden, Jed Spence has got a chance now because we've got about 8 injured defenders, and he looks decent. So it's a bit unfair on him, really. He looks decent, I think, Jed Spence. He never got a chance. Conte didn't want him, didn't play him, sent him out on loan. That's it. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Yeah, there's too much of that.
Yeah, strange.
You know,
and I think that's where there's a lot of people that are bringing players into the game that are being hoodwinked, not deliberately, but being hoodwinked into being told this is a good player and he'll do a job for you. I've had my rant about this a couple of weeks ago. The agents bringing it in have no interest. They're double glazing people to a point, and I'll say this lightly, no meaning any disrespect to people, but there was always this image where it was a quick fix, move on to your next sale. And I think sometimes agents are like that. It's bring the money in. It doesn't matter where this guy ends up being the world. If he's rotten, I'll move him to another club. And there's this element that I think this should not be, Tom, if somebody comes to you with a product, because we all work together as we know, and we know this has happened. If somebody comes to a product with you and you think, it's no bad, do you just bring it in? We don't sell products like that. We spend months, if not years, digesting whether that quality is going to be good enough for the company to be looking good and be successful with it. And I know you can't do that always with a footballer, but you can get it in great depth with the resources that these clubs have got and find that somebody doesn't come in and end up, look, Werner might have been a decent player somewhere else, but he's never done it with Chelsea and he's not done it at Tottenham. So,
and I'm pretty sure you won't buy products off a video either. You're going to have hands-on with it, you'll test it, you'll touch it, you'll feel it, as opposed to now, how many clubs are buying ideas from a 20-minute YouTube video that somebody's put together?
You do full due diligence, even at the level we're at. So to be not doing that at Premier League football is, and like you say, years ago you would have had a 3-4 month scouting profile of a player, home and away, get to know them, what they're like off the field, and like you say, now I think the players are bought without even the manager being aware of who they are.
Yeah. I've done some scouting.
I know I can bore Dennis rigid and probably do, and Dennis is quite happy here. I know I told you, but I've obviously got a different board. Steve, you'd have seen what's normally. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. But you got a general manager there at the sport I follow, who does the scouting, who spend a year scouting players in college. If they're bringing in free agents, they'll know the player, they'll know the guy that they're bringing in. And if you've got a good franchise there who's bringing in the proper players, that franchise will succeed and excel. Whereas you've got the guys who have shit scouting, who have lousy, but bring in players in terms of reputations and all that kind of stuff. Don't look at what they like off the park and all that kind of stuff. And that's the franchises that are floundering. My own franchise, Washington Commanders, this year are in an outstanding season because we've got a good scouting, we've got a good GM, and they're working in conjunction with the manager or with the coach of the team. And that, to me, is where too much football is falling down now, is that these players are bringing in, these scouts, or whatever you want to call them, directors of football, are bringing in players and telling a manager, you're going to work with him, rather than joined up thinking, in terms of obviously where everything's designed from the manager's system around, who's a good player off the park, who's not going to cause you trouble, who's not going to be I'm going to quote Dennis, who's not going to be the Billy Big Time, and think he's bigger than the club. And that brings us again back to Fernandez for you, Tom.
Yeah. But is that not because it's financial people buying the players now and not football people, and they're looking at them as investments? I think that's the Jed Spence story. They've thought we can get somebody in for X amount of money, and in 5 years' time, we're worth 6 times as much as that. And if we can sell him, then it's profitable business. And I think they look at it more like that than they do look at it what the football's going to do.
Yeah,
but that's what you mentioned earlier on, how well run Brentford are. That's the system Brentford operate. As Brentford, they'll bring in a player for 2 million. And he's a success if they sell him for 10. If they don't sell him, he's not been a success. And they work that Moneyball system that comes from baseball in the States. And that's what Brentford have done, and they've thrived upon that system. Wolves have tried something similar, and as we've discussed, they've on their backside because they've just got rid of too much quality and not brought in the quality to replace them.
Is there too much outside influence of the people we're talking about there that is creating the monster for our game? People that have been in the fringes have now got an inroads when it used to be football people that were running and getting involved in the game. And I look at these dugouts now and I see people sitting behind managers and I'm thinking, what qualifications he got? It's it's a university degree or it's something, sports science or whatever. And I'm thinking, this is an inroads for people that to me are almost becoming a hindrance in the game. because we've talked about sports science and all the rest of it. We've spoke there briefly about football directors or technical directors that are bringing in players. So I just wonder if it's getting absolutely bombarded with outsiders coming in, and everything is getting diluted to the point that we're not really seeing the finished product on the park as good as it should be, with people being more hands-on, which Cammy and yourselves have spoke about, games, and on the back of that, bringing players in that you think he'll do a great job for the club. And I'll put my hat in that, because the bottom line is I want to be part of that club, and I'm not bringing somebody in here that's going to be looking poor, So anyway, that's my rant. So, Cammy, you were going to ask Tom about our relation, or the company's relationship with Gretna.
Yeah, you've got a relationship, Tom, obviously, with Gretna. The Gretna had a pedigree up here for 3 or 4 seasons. I think they were Dennis's nemesis. This doesn't sound right. Dennis's nemesis.
They were a wee bit.
When he was East Stirling. So they're now non-league. But Tom, I understand obviously that your firm has put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, and have a wee bit of backing with Gretna.
Yeah, we do, and so our firm was started as a local firm in Gretna. Our head office is now just over the border in a little town called Longtown, about 3 miles, 3 miles away. And I thought it was a nice synergy with the club that the company that we work for started there. Gretna's a Phoenix club. Obviously, they went bust and came back. It's a real community club. It's been brought back by the community. They obviously got hold of the stadium and a bit of land surrounding it, and they're trying to just really create a football for all ages there. They've started a lot of underage teams, trying to get the local kids into playing. They've put an all-weather pitch in so that they can use it all year round for coaching and for training. And it's really busy every night of the week. It's great to see the amount of kids that go down there, and I really like that just getting people into football, getting kids into football. And the story of Gretna was great from a personal perspective. One of my best friends was a big Gretna fan. He used to go home and away every game when they were really before they started the rise, and we started following a bit. I used to go to a few games. I can't say I went to anywhere near as many as him, but we obviously did a bit. I did a bit of the cup run in 2006 when they got to the final, and we went up to Hampden with him, and there's some moral support, and obviously they lost on penalties to a good Hearts team at the time. And so it was a long circle coming back around to the start, really, and it's nice to have some input. I don't get to as many games as I'd like, but I'm going to try and get one. Dennis is going to come down at some point, and we're going to get a game in before the end of this season. There's some good home games coming up. Last season was tricky. They managed to stave off relegation in the end, but they've had a much better season this season, sitting sort of mid-table. But it's a competitive league, because obviously you guys will know a lot more about it than me, but the rules around getting into the Football League have changed in the last couple of years. It's a lot more open, and there's some big investment in some of the teams in that area. Certainly, teams like East Kilbride and teams like that seem to have had a bit of investment, and I think it's going to be quite a competitive league for the next few years.
I think that will, because
there's quite a few have actually came from, which was the 2nd or 3rd division, into there. And I was just looking the other day. You've got Berwick, Cowdenbeath, Brecon. They've gone Highland League, haven't they, Cammy? I'm talking about teams that have dropped out. We mentioned Cowdenbeath, Albion Rovers, East Stirling, and it seems to go on and on. Now, that seems to be almost like you're in that trap. The trap door opens, you get into the Lowland League. What is Gretna's ambitions, Tom? Are they keen to get back into? Would they go into the 2nd division in Scotland if they managed to get promoted?
I think they would if they were to get that. I think the start is to just create a stable club that is a community hub. I think that they're trying to put a gym in there, get the bar facilities up and running, just create somewhere that the community takes pride in, and they get kids obviously playing, and also wanting to support the club as they get a bit older. So I think it's a real positive, and it's something we're proud to support, definitely.
Well, I mean, when I was involved playing against them, or the team was, I mean, they were paying a fortune. They really were. I mean, you had wee boy David Bingham. It was reported he was getting £1,500 a week. Now, you're going back 15, 20 years ago. So it wasn't yesterday. And that was a lot of money. He came from Inverness Cali, which was, they were doing really well at the time. So you look at that and you say to yourself, well, Gretna was, what would you say, a very wealthy club for a long period of time that actually got them up through the divisions, as well as the football played was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but a lot of that was down to how much money they were spending, plus as well, they were full time, and that again helped. So my thoughts are, will they have the ambition and the finances to get back to being in the Scottish second division?
Not in the next couple of years, I think, but potentially, they might have to put our sponsorship fee up though, Dennis, so be careful.
Yeah, I'd be careful.
Well, it sounds as if certainly does sound as if they're building and building from a decent foundation as well, which is good, rather than obviously what the owner did was he came in, bought the club, and then just, as you say, Dennis, he threw a lot of money at it, and if you remember that season that they won the went to the Scottish Cup final and almost won it, by taking Hearts to penalties. That was the season that Clyde beat Celtic in the Scottish Cup final, and then the next round, Gretna actually knocked Clyde out. So I think Clyde could get a wee bit of credit for Gretna getting to the final of the Scottish Cup. They took out the big boys.
Yeah.
And on that note, guys, I'd like to thank Clyde and obviously the staff here for allowing me to do the podcast from down the stairs. I can hear the game going on. I can hear the 3 or 4 fans shouting anyway, you know what I mean? So the game's been going 8 minutes. I still think it's nothing each day. I've not heard any abuse or anything like that yet.
6 minutes gone, still nothing each, Cammy. So normally we normally end up our guns to about 20 past. So tonight we'll let you go and actually enjoy the game, Cammy.
Cool, guys.
Thanks for getting there. You as well, Tom. Brilliant.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, and I'm pretty sure that it won't be the last time we have you on. Maybe Tom will get you on, depending on who gets through into the next round, and obviously Steve yourself, if Spurs can turn things around and can make that top 8, we'll get you in as well.
We'll settle for 8 players in that top 8.
Well, Steve, come back on after you beat Aston Villa. That's what Sunday, the 9th of February.
We'll beat 20-minute Villa. Don't worry about that.
Well, by that time you'll have a few more results under your belt, and hopefully, Tom, Man United as well.
Well, Spurs United's not that far away as well, so you'll have to get us both on for that.
Well, good luck.
Europa
thanks.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Right, I'm going to say cheerio. I'll just end the stream there. But thanks very much. You have been watching the Friday Night Football Pitch. Go ahead, guys. It says my banner. Like, subscribe, share, tell your pals. I'm quite sure, obviously, Tom and Steve, you'll do that. Dennis doesn't have any pals to tell, but other than that, tell anybody at all you like. Because, as we all know, everything's happening on the pitch. Good night.